This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
If fighting poverty was a business, my guest this week would be one of its leading entrepreneurs. Last week, Time magazine listed him with 100 others among people who will change our lives, who will make our future. And the others included Vikram Akula, George Bush, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, Angelina Jolie.
Sure, and it's an honor to be on a list with
You were in a
those
good company,
individuals.
and we see George Bush has dropped out a little bit.
Right.
But you're doing all right.
Doing all right.
Welcome to Walk the Talk.
Thank you, Shekhar. Good to be here.
Tell us a little bit about microfinance, SKS, the company that you launched,
Sure.
and the fame. You could have become a partner at McKinsey, but but this fame would not have come anywhere near you.
Right. Well, microfinance is definitely about eradicating poverty. We see microfinance, the provision of financial services to the poor, as the single most important development initiative there. It provides the base for other development to take place. And at SKS, we have an aspiration to reach out to about 50 lakh clients across the country.
And this is one of your typical operations. This is in the village of Katepalli in Nalgonda district.
Yes, this is a typical center meeting of about 50 women, and this is where all of the loan transactions take place. So women who are getting loans will come here and receive their loans, and they'll also make their repayments on a weekly basis at this center meeting, is what we call it.
And loans are disbursed and collected like this in cash.
Right, exactly. What happens, all the transactions happen in cash. Everything happens at the doorstep of the poor.
Right.
This makes it easy for them. These are women who can't travel to local banks to get loans, and so we make it easy for them by bringing the bank to their doorstep.
And what was the chant we heard as it started?
It's a pledge because what we're doing is we're giving loans without collateral, and so we're giving it based on a faith or a trust. And what we've asked them to do is to repeat that pledge every meeting. We'll take our loans and use them for productive purposes. We'll use them to get our families out of poverty. We will come to the meeting on time. We'll help each other in times of need. And then on our end also, we make a pledge to them to deliver timely, transparent services in a way that actually helps them get out of poverty.
And I believe you have no NPAs to speak of.
Well, it's a 99% on-time repayment rate. So there is a 1% default rate, but I think 99% repayment rate, it would be the envy of any bank in the world. And I think it's a testament to the fact that the poor are creditworthy. What they're looking for is an opportunity. They're not looking for charity, and if you give them that opportunity, they will protect it. They will, use the loans for productive purposes.
And you will get 99% of your loans back, even at 25% interest.
Absolutely, and I think for the poor, although 25% seems like a lot, it's actually the lowest cost financing available for the poor. It's true that there are RRBs that charge nominally lower interest rates, but we know that the true cost of borrowing is much higher.
RRBs, regional rural banks.
Regional rural banks, exactly. So if it's a subsidized loan of 7 or 12%, it's true that it can be nominally lower, but the fact is for the poor, number one, they don't have collateral, so they can't access it. 2, most of them are illiterate, so they can't fill out a loan application. 3, the cost of going to that bank branch, trying to access that loan is so high that at 25% interest, we are the lowest cost financing available to the poor.
When you say cost, you also include speed money and grease money. And
Exactly. I mean, I didn't want to say that, but as we all know, there are brokers when it comes to getting a loan from a bank. There's sometimes bribes that need to be paid,
Right.
and it's something that the poor are very aware of, and that's why they would prefer our option.
And then you need collaterals.
Exactly. So the fact is, there's financial apartheid in our country. For the poor, the banking system is just not accessible, and the only way they have access to finance is through groups like ours, microfinance institutions.
Or the money lender.
Or the money lender, right.
So your competition is the money lender.
In some ways, yes, our competition is the money lender, and unfortunately, money lenders are exploitative. They have monopoly situations, so they charge extremely high interest rates, and it puts the poor into a debt trap. What we're doing is simply making a lower cost financing available so they can do what they otherwise would be doing normally.
What's the average size of your loan? And what's the typically the largest and the smallest?
Sure. A typical loan is about 8,000 rupees. And typically people are doing any kind of income generating activity. A very popular one is livestock, such as buffaloes. So they'll purchase a buffalo, they'll sell the milk.
I know. I've heard people call yours the Buffalo Bank.
Buffalo Bank, but it's only about 20% of our portfolios in Buffalo's, but certainly it's one of the most productive activities
Right.
in a rural area. On the high side, we've had borrowers who've taken loans as high as 30, 35,000 rupees. And now what we've actually done is set up a separate system where a really good borrower, we take them out of the group and give them an individual loan. If you will, it's private banking for the poor. And then they're doing more entrepreneurial activities, like a small sort of, carpentry shop.
Your own version of high net worth individuals.
Exactly.
People who can borrow 30,000 rupees.
Absolutely.
Or if since you come from Manhattan, $700.
Sure, exactly. And we think that's also important to do because if we've developed a credit history with a borrower, developed a relationship with them, why should we hand them over to the banking system? We'll continue to serve that borrower, we'll earn more money, more profit off of it, but that will underwrite growth so we can make the group loans, the smaller loans, more available throughout the country.
But you don't lend for agriculture. You only lend for rural enterprise.
Right. We have a small portfolio for agriculture, about 5%, and it's mainly non-farm activities.
Such as what?
Such as livestock or trading, so
Right.
a small kirana store or vegetable vending. And the reason for this is since they have to make weekly repayments, it's easier for them to make weekly repayments for something that generates sort of a weekly cash flow. That's what we find is the more productive opportunities.
Right. Right. Because the public discourse seems to be that that stagnating or declining agriculture is the real cause for rural poverty. And if you have to attack that, you have to address this. Does it bother you?
Well, I do agree that agriculture needs to be rethought, and the way we think about and revive or make agriculture more productive is an important strategy, but we're not going to wait until agriculture gets fixed. The fact is that there is a vibrant service economy, there's a vibrant non-farm economy, and so if people are doing those activities, then we'll support them in those measures. I think agriculture needs more radical reform. I don't think a small 2-acre farm that then gets subdivided to 1 acres per each son in the household, I don't think that's viable. But we do see Buffalo's, kirana stores, and other activities being viable, so we're going to put money into those productive parts of the economy.
And you only lend to women.
We lend exclusively to women, and there's 3 reasons for doing that. The first is from a social impact perspective, women tend to invest money back in their household. Guys like you and me, a little bit on personal consumption before it comes to the household, but women,
Right.
if they earn 10 rupees goes into the household. The second reason is that women are actually more risk averse than men, so they're very careful about their activities and they tend to be more successful. And finally, as you saw in the group system, it requires a bit of cooperation because everyone is a guarantor for each other, so they have
Right.
to help each other out.
And also there is less of the liquor problem. There
Sure.
are fewer bad habits.
Yeah, and I think that goes to this question of productive use of loans, and I think women use them productively for activities, and then they invest it back in the household. A guy typically will spend a rupee on chai, a rupee on a beedi, and then the rest comes to the household. A woman, you get 10
or
rupees.
maybe 5 on the terra in the evening.
Perhaps that certainly is part of what they do as well.
Yeah, because the power rests so much with him normally.
Right.
If you give him the money also. But you intend not to change this rule.
Well, right now it's worked extremely well, and it's not that we don't intend for men to participate, but they do so through their wives. So we know in some cases women are doing activities on their own, but in some cases they're jointly doing activities with their husbands. In some cases they're even handing over to their husbands. We're fine with that because we're trying to infuse money into the household.
As long as they come back and give you your weekly, your hafta.
Exactly.
If I can use that.
Exactly.
Not very nice expression.
No, but it's a fair expression. Yes, for us it's all about repayment.
Right.
But that's because they can only get repayment if they're doing productive activities. If they were using it for consumption, it just would not be possible to get the kind of repayment that we're getting.